Hi, Oni, and hello, everyone. Today we are here with the Onyi Anyado, and he is a corporate trainer, global leadership speaker as well. And people call him a silver tongue personality. And he is yeah, and he is fondly referred to as a Mr. Distinctions as well. So here, stage is yours, Oni. So please present yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bindu. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, good afternoon. First and foremost, may I apologize for having no screen. There's been technical issues on my side for the last day, so please do accept my apologies. So you can hear my voice. My voice will make up for everything. So yes, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Onyi Anyado, and I'm a UK-based global leadership speaker, corporate trainer, and futurist. So from my message of cutting edge distinction, I coach and train leaders and organizations around the world on how to lead and develop their leadership distinction in the 2020s and beyond. So details, my Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm not really on Facebook that much. And of course, my email address. So I was born and raised in Hackney, East London. London is separated into 4 areas to a 2.4 family. Came from an interesting background, which involved dropping out of university, 6 of my friends getting murdered, and I nearly getting shot dead too. I wasn't really a bad boy, but I didn't have no purpose in life. So now, fast forward 2021, as I mentioned, I'm a UK-based global leadership speaker, corporate trainer, and I'm a futurist. So the title of my talk is Leading with Disruption in the 2020s. Leading with Disruption in the 2020s. As we've seen in 2020, came and disrupted everything. And for the last 3-4 years, I've been speaking about creative distinction. And if we like or not, now is the time to become even more creative, distinctive. So how do we now, as an individual, whether you're a student, a graduate, you're a HR leader, you're a team manager, you're an entrepreneur, how do you live with disruption in the 2020s? And may I say, even beyond, because we're 2021, literally 9 years to go to another decade. How do we lead with disruption? First and foremost, leadership is how do we lead as individuals and even organizations? So in 2015, I said the following. Leadership isn't about age, but rather leadership is about influence, impact, and inspiration. Leadership isn't about age, but rather leadership is about influence, impact, and inspiration. So it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how long you've been in, how long you've been in an organization for, how long you've been in education, but rather is about influence, impact, and inspiration. The 3 eyes of leading with disruption. And before you can influence, impact, and inspire your customers, your organization, your friends, your family, the first person you have to influence, impact, and inspire is yourself. Now, in the era of creative distinction, a way to lead with disruption in the 2020s is to take the responsibility of being a leader. And that comes from influence, impact, and inspiration. So leadership isn't about age, but rather leadership is about influence, impact, and inspiration. Leadership isn't about age, but rather leadership is about influence, impact, and inspiration. The next pillar, the next key to leading with disruption in the 2020s is, so in 2015, I said the following. Distinction in leadership isn't a mindset. Distinction in leadership is a state of mind. Distinction in leadership isn't a mindset. Distinction in leadership is a state of mind. So we have to realize that in this new era, this new norm in the 2020s, a way to lead with disruption in the 2020s is having a state of mind rather than a mindset. So for example, a mindset might say, go to college, go to university and get a 25-year job. we now have to realize that with the era of creative disruption, we now have to realize that is more than just having a mindset, but a state of mind. And that state of mind sees opportunities and possibilities even in the obstacles and problems. Because in life, you're going to have two kinds of people: those who only see obstacles and problems, or those who see opportunities and possibilities. So a way to lead with disruption in the 2020s and beyond is having a state of mind. And when you have a state of mind, you become legacy minded. So when famous people die or well-known people die, we say, oh, she left a legacy, he left a legacy, they left a legacy. But to lead with disruption in the 2020s and beyond, you need to have a state of mind that continually sees opportunities and possibilities. So for example, this is a platform for graduates. If you're a graduate looking for a job, just don't look for the jobs of 2021. You've got to start positioning yourself for the future of work. So if you're an entrepreneur, it's not just saying, well, I'm going to be relevant in 2021. You have to think 5, 10, even 15 years down the line. That's a state of mind. So distinction in leadership isn't a mindset. Distinction in leadership is a state of mind. So I've laid down two platforms on how leadership isn't about age, but it's about influence, impact, and inspiration, and it's about having rather than having a mindset, having a state of mind. So distinction in leadership isn't a mindset; it's a state of mind. So the first topic I want to speak about is about future thinking. So, dear leader, your vision is your future. What do you see? We're in an era of the era of creative distinction. Unfortunately, we're now in a new norm. Unfortunately or fortunately. So I want to ask you three pivotal questions. So your vision is your future. What do you see? What do you want? And what's your distinction? Clearly, your vision is your future. What do you see for your organization, for your department, for the next 5, 10, 15 years, for the next 5 months? What do you actually want as a graduate, as an entrepreneur? Do you want to be rich? How do you define rich? Do you want to make impact? What kind of impact? And what's your distinction? So whether you're looking for work, you're looking for promotion, you want to start up a business, or you're involved in senior management in your organ, what's your distinction? So when I started off in the industry, in the personal development industry, I promised myself two things. One, I would never call myself a motivational speaker. Nothing wrong with that, but there were so many motivational speakers saying the same thing. And two, I said I would never quote anyone, but rather I'll be constantly quoted. And it's interesting now, my message of Cutting Edge Distinction is being quoted around the world. So dear leader, your vision is your future. What do you see in the next 5, 10, 15 plus years? What do you want and what's your distinction? So if you're applying for a job in a top tech company, your distinction. Now, I train and I work with organizations around the world, leadership program, learning and development program. One of the issues, not problems, that senior managers have is what they actually want as a leader, as an individual, and as a department. So it's pivotal, it's important, it's critical that you begin to ask yourself, what do you need, what do you want, and what's your distinction? A famous American actress, Doris Day, said, "Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be." Why? The future we're not thinking about. So, which is Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and the likes of Mark Zuckerberg. Not just in 2021, they're 5, 15, 20 years down the line. They've created a future, they've come back to the present, and now they're telling us the future. So, dear leader, what do you see? What do you want? And what's your distinction? Are you seeing opportunities and possibilities, or are you seeing obstacles and problems? Is it case sera sera, whatever will be, or are you willing to be strategic and achieve tomorrow's distinction today? So, dear leader, what do you see? What do you want? And what's your distinction? So, the next thing I want to speak about is about leadership branding. Leadership branding. I'm sure every single one of you understand that terminology and phrase. You are your brand. You are your brand. But what is branding? So in 2015, I said the following: branding is not just a product, it's also a way of life, an idea. Branding is actually leadership. So branding is not a product, it's not your CV. Branding is not just a product, it's also a way of life. The vision, the values, and the voice of the organization. Branding is actually leadership. So, for example, if you're in a management role, how can you now cause your department and your organization to stand out? I created the 3 V's of organizational and leadership branding: your vision, your values, and your voice. Your vision, your values, and your voice. So you now have to say to yourself, I mean, when I work with senior management, I understand that unfortunately, many senior managers or many managers don't understand the vision, the values, and the voice of the organization. And when you don't see the vision, the values, and the voice of the organization, rather than being a strategic vision, there's a messed up division. So I want to challenge you now, as whatever function you find yourself in, whether you're a graduate, if you're a graduate and you're going for an interview and they say, hey, John Smith, for example, tell us something about you. What you should say is, oh, I'm passionate about tech and I understand the vision, the values, and the voice of your organization. Because when you work for organization, it's not just about your vision, your values, and your voice, but rather it's the vision, the values, and the voice of the organization. So your brand is what will distinguish you. No brand, no distinction. Right now, we're in the era of creative disruption. There's many lockdowns and many disruptions. One of the ways to stand out is to understand the vision, the values, and the voice. And that is important to build a brand for your future market. So when I started off in the personal development industry, I started off working with young people in schools, in the education sector. But now I'm working with organizations and senior management around the world. Why? I found my vision, my values, and my voice, and I intentionally shared, showcased, and served it. So whatever remit you find in, if you're an entrepreneur, social media represents your CV, social media represents your business card, media represents your website. Gone are the days as an entrepreneur spending £5,000 on a website. All you have to really have to understand that social media, the capacity of it represents the vision, your values, and your voice. So if you don't have a clear defined vision, value, and voice for an organization, for an individual, a student, or an entrepreneur, it'll be impossible to lead with disruption in the 2020s and beyond. So what distinguishes Apple, Google, Facebook, IBM is that they understand and we understand their vision, their values, and their voice. Steve Jobs maybe died about 7 or 8 years ago, but his vision, his values, and his voice is still speaking for him nearly 10 years after his death. So leading with disruption in the 2020s, you have to be intentional with serving your vision, your values, and your voice. And it's about serving and it become legacy minded. So dear leader, your brand is what will distinguish you. No brand, no distinction. The next thing I want to speak about is about creative leadership. As I mentioned earlier, we're now in the era of creative distinction. So we have to realize that a way to lead with disruption in the 2020s is to understand that creativity is the new qualification. So once you realize that creativity is a new qualification, you can now be more intentional with working your vision, your values, and your voice. So opportunities are everywhere, but possibilities are endless. So begin to say to yourself, what's the opportunities? What's my possibilities? What do I see for the future? Why? Creative leadership is actually the new qualification. So creativity actually makes the world go round. They say money makes the world go round. Yes and no, but creative leadership actually makes the world go round. But what is the essence of creative leadership? I created the 3 C's of creative leadership, and that's being a critical thinker, a collaborative thinker, and a creative thinker. Being a critical thinker, a collaborative thinker, and a creative thinker. So how can you become more of a collaborative thinker? For example, if you're a graduate or you're looking for a new job, go on YouTube and constantly watch videos based around AI, machine learning, the future of work, leadership development. Because when you begin to rub your minds with leaders who have already gone before you, you can actually go to the future and begin to ask yourself questions. So critical thinking, collaborative thinking, and creative thinking. Creative thinking is not just thinking outside of the box, but is using the box to see new opportunities and possibilities to become distinguished. So distinction in leadership isn't a mindset. Distinction in leadership is a state of mind. So critical thinking, collaborative thinking, and creative thinking. And once you constantly become a critical thinker, that's thinking outside of the box and using your brain, your mind to achieve your goals and solve problems easier and quicker. When you become a critical thinker, a collaborative thinker, and a creative thinker, you're actually in leadership. And remember, we established that leadership isn't about age, but rather leadership is about influence, impact, and inspiration. So creativity makes the world go round. And I really want to challenge you, if you're a student, a graduate, an employee, or you're in a management position, or you're a CEO, to really understand what it takes to become a critical thinker, a collaborative thinker, and a creative thinker. And of course, I cover more of this in my coaching session. So please do send me a message if you're interested. I've got a few minutes left. So the next second from last thing I want to speak about is about time management. Now, definitely, certainly, everything you've heard about time management, we know about saving time, creating time, which is very important. But I want to go to the next level. So what is the essence of time management? I created the 3 M's of time management, and that's managing, mastering, and maximizing your time. Managing, mastering, maximizing your time. Every human being, white, black, young, old, rich, and poor, we have many things in common, but one thing we all got in common is time. So last year, I said the following. In regards to time management, the old wish for more time, while the young can't comprehend time waits for no one. So the old, they wish for more time. Oh, I wish I had more time. Oh, I wish I had more time. But the young can't comprehend time waits for no one. And when I'm talking about time, I'm not talking about years and decades only. I'm actually talking about managing, mastering, and maximizing your time at any given moment. So, for example, I always tell my clients and audience that we have to make the decade count, but don't make the decade count us. We have to make the decade count, but we should never make the decade count us. Why? Leadership isn't about age. So once you take that responsibility that I am a leader, regardless of my salary, my qualifications, or my impact, or who's following me on social media, you can be more intentional with managing, mastering, and maximizing my time. Why? Because time could be traded, time can be purchased, and time could be saved. So time could be traded, time could be purchased, and time could be saved. So as a young student, as a graduate, how can you purchase time? In 2021, you've got to find 5 jobs of the future. And even if you're working in a supermarket or you're working as a road sweeper or receptionist, your eye and your mind is on the jobs of the future. And so from now until the next 5 years, you're building up your skills. You're taking time to build up your skills. So by the time you get to 5 years time, 2026, 27, you're already ready for the future of work. Remember, the future you're not thinking about has already started. And what distinguishes Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, they're managing, mastering, and maximizing their time. So time is the greatest currency. It's not the dime, it's not the lira, it's not the pound, it's not the dollar, it's not the euro. Unfortunately, it's definitely not the Nigerian naira for now. The greatest currency is time. So I want to challenge you. Identify yourself. What takes up majority of your time in the day? Before you go to sleep, can you spend an extra 20 minutes reading an article? Can you spend an extra 20 minutes watching an inspirational YouTube video? So time, manage, master, and maximize your time. So before I close and before I hand over back to Bindu, the last thing I want to speak about is about leadership resilience. Dear leader, do you know it's your discipline, your dedication, and your determination that will distinguish you? Dear leader, do you know It's your discipline, your dedication, and your determination that will distinguish you. Yes, throughout today, you're going to be inspired. You are inspired by many great speakers. You're inspired, you're challenged, you're motivated. But it's more than motivation and inspiration. It's actually, I created the 3 Ds of leadership resilience. Excuse me. It's being disciplined, it's being dedicated, and it's being determined. So, what happens when you go for 5 interviews and you've got no money? Are you going to be more disciplined, dedicated, and determined? What happens when you start up in business and you fail, like I failed many times? Are you going to be disciplined, dedicated, and determined? What happens when you hire me as a trainer, as a coach for your organization, but after I go, your staff are not buying into what you're saying? It's your discipline, your dedication, and your determination. I'm not a motivational speaker, so it's more than motivation. But you have to realize that what distinguishes Elon Musk, what distinguished Steve Jobs, is they had a high level of discipline, dedication, and determination. And when you actually continually apply and learn your discipline, your dedication, and your determination, you're in leadership. But what is leadership? Leadership isn't about age, but rather leadership is about influence, impact, and inspiration. So you've heard how leading with disruption in the 2020s involves the 3 Ds of leadership discipline. The 3 M's of time management, manage, master, maximize, is the 3 C's of creative leadership. Being a critical thinker, a collaborative thinker, and a creative thinker is about your brand, your vision, your values, and your voice. And it's also about seeing, achieving, and conceiving, or should I say, conceiving, achieving, and believing tomorrow's distinction today. And then once you do that, you're in leadership. And we've established that leadership isn't about me, myself, and I. Leadership is about him, her, and them. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a wonderful audience. Give yourself a round of applause as I hand back over to Bindu.
Yeah, Oni, it's a great session, and we are really enjoying this. And I'm having here some questions. So I have a question. I just go to there. Hmm. So Nishant wants to know, how do we limit distractions from unverified content available online? So
Very good question, Mishat. Thank you. Yes, one of the things when you wake up in the morning, you have when you write down or know your 2, 3 goals you have to achieve. If you're working online or you're working off your mobile phone, put your phone on secret mode. So you don't get no emails, you don't get no WhatsApps, you don't get no notifications on social media, and achieve that first, second, or third goal. And then once you achieve your goals, then you can go back to your emails or your social media, etc. So one of the ways to cut out unnecessary distractions, if you're working off your mobile phone, put it on secret mode so you're not receiving any notifications. And if you're working in an office, for example, identify and ask yourself, what are the things that easily distract me? And when you find out what easily distracts you, then make up your mind to say, okay, let me focus on these goals. Because remember, it's not having a mindset, it's a state of mind. And you now have to make up your mind that you're not going to be easily distracted.
yeah, great to know about that. So another question is here, Oni. Rita wants to know about what are your sources of inspiration. Have they changed throughout your career journey?
Fantastic question. That is a really good question. Yes. How can I answer? Well, one of my main sources of inspiration is myself. You heard my story. I dropped out of university. 6 of my friends got murdered. I nearly got shot dead. So I've lived that particular lifestyle before. So I realized that my legacy is called From Detention to Distinction. So I had to be my number one inspiration. So you remember what I said, that leadership isn't about age, it's about influence, impact, and inspiration. And the first person you have to be inspired by is yourself. Because I can come here and say, oh, well, Steve Jobs inspired me, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, they're great. But my biggest inspiration was myself, knowing where I've come from and where I'm going to go. So I hope that helps, that, let's not always look on the outside for inspiration. Let's look in the inside and look in the mirror.
Okay, yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, can you hear me, Oni?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, yes. So I've answered
Yes,
that
yes,
question.
I can hear you. Even I have a question, Oni, here. Like your message for those three C's and the time management. It's quite interesting, and it's like I would like to know your message about the cutting edge. So, what do you say more about that?
Yes. So my message of cutting edge distinction, and people always ask me, and that's a good question, Bindu. Thank you. Becoming cutting edge means you're not in competition with anyone. You're in competition with yourself. But you're not just raising a bar of excellence, you're actually showcasing the bar of distinction. Because anyone can be excellent. Anyone could get to work early. That's excellent. Anyone can do work, but there's a way that you do it that you become unforgettable. When we speak about cricketers, the first name that comes to me is Imran Khan, and I'm not a cricket fan. He became so unforgettable in regards to cricket. When we talk about boxing, we're Muhammad Ali. Now, not everyone's going to be world famous, but a way to become cutting edge in your office, in your field of endeavor, is to become memorable. And how do you become that? Is by intentionally showcasing your vision, your values, and your voice, and being intentional with being a critical and collaborative thinker.